If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims. Welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Nish Dubashia. Hi, Nish.
Hi, Carissa. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
All across the ocean in
Yes, all the
where are
way
you
to
connecting
London.
from?
Just southeast of London, just on the outskirts of London.
Okay. Wonderful. Let me share a little bit about Nish. Nish is a British writer and integral thinker who studied alongside some of the world's leading research mathematicians at the University of Warwick. He is the creator of the Diamond Model, an innovative framework that integrates Bohemian physics, integral theory, and Eastern philosophy to reveal the fundamental patterns of relationships shaping human perception. Nish is the author of 3 books, Gifted, Dancing with Angels, and The Unity of Everything, a conversation with David Bohm, 2 of which have appeared on the Amazon best-selling list and bestseller of W.H. Smith. Congratulations to that.
Thank you.
In addition to his writing, Nish serves as a faculty member at the Center for Transformational Learning. And is that at the UK?
Actually, it's based in the USA.
Oh,
But we
it's
have,
based in the US. Oh,
but we
where?
have
Where
people
is that?
working. I think it's near Virginia, the headquarters.
Oh, wonderful.
Um, but we have people working for that organization in the UK and Europe as well.
Yeah, I understand. Nish also is a co-founder of Evolving Nexus, offering spiritually based programs focused on self-development and self-transcendence. So happy to be with you today, Nish.
Thank you, Carissa. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and I was mentioning earlier before we started the interview that I really love your energy and frequency, and I could feel it before you came on the interview today. And it just felt very light and grounded. So I'm curious if you work on that or if it's natural because you've had a near-death experience. If it's just like who you are now.
It's probably a bit of both of those. I mean, I've been practicing meditation since I was at university, so that's close to 40 years. So that probably has quite a lot to do with it.
That's
Um,
significant.
mm,
See the power of meditation. Yes.
and other sort of complementary spiritual practices like yoga and Tai Chi. But certainly some of the awakening type experiences I've had have, in a way, accelerated that process, I think, of calming, grounding, presence.
Mm, yes. Wonderful. And I was curious, what type of meditation did you start with at university?
So
What were
when I was
you
at
drawn to? Yeah.
So my first kind of meditation was actually Buddhist, specifically Vipassana, Theravada Buddhist, early Buddhist. That kind of went well with the kind of rational, mathematical kind of thinking I was doing at the time. Early Buddhism is a very rational kind of religion. And then later on, as I got older into my 20s and 30s, that expanded to more forms of meditation that also included the body as well, like Kundalini yoga and Kundalini meditation.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. I also really like Vipassana meditation, and I've been to a 10-day meditation retreat and also the 1 days. So
Mm.
I'm not currently practicing it, but I do integrate it. I do spiritual healings and I do integrate that type of meditation, like guiding a person through feelings. For our audience, I would encourage you to look up this type of meditation, Vipassana. It's a beautiful type of meditation that starts with a feeling. So you start to feel the sensations breathing through your nose. And so I remember the first few days of the retreat. So, have you been on a retreat?
I have, yes. I've done a 10-day retreat as well.
Hmm. And how did you feel? How was the retreat for you?
It went through phases. I loved it in the beginning, the first 1 or 2 days when you're settling down and calming down. Then I went through a few days which were a little bit more challenging because when you're just meditating 6, 8 hours a day, a lot of your stuff starts coming up that we normally keep suppressed. So you start to feel your fears, your angers, your hurt, things we don't normally pay attention to. But then you work through that. And then the last 2 or 3 days again were very peaceful and blissful.
Oh, that's
Mm.
wonderful.
Mm.
Yeah, I found it quite challenging. I only maybe enjoyed like a few hours of the first day. I did enjoy the meals. They serve vegetarian
Mm.
meals, and I thought that was nice. And then my senses started to amplify. It just every time someone was using a fork, it sounded like an earthquake.
Yeah.
Hearing things. And then I started going through relationships and like thinking about all my relationships. And then I got into body pain. So I was feeling a lot of body pain about the third day. And then the fourth day, I started to transcend that and see visions and get downloads and I wrote a song based on Gandhi's Be That Change. It's
Wonderful.
like, yeah, it was so in the end, it's like getting through that hump, getting through those challenges just is so rewarding because, we get to experience the gifts of peacefulness, connection, and knowing we can go there at any time. So it's
Yeah.
beautiful to
Mm.
share that with you, to talk about that. Because not a lot of people take the time to do that, the 10 days because of life, whatever it might be.
Yes.
So, would you share some of your details about your early childhood? We'd love to get to know you and especially your time in India. India has a special place in my heart. I think I've been there in a past life. So, and
Mm.
just how it's shaped your worldview.
Yeah, sure. So both of my parents are from India. They're from two slightly different. In India, we have, as you must know, we have like a caste system.
Hmm.
Uh, it's much less prevalent now, but in the 1960s, when my parents got married, it was more of a reality. So they came from very slightly different castes, which was quite radical at the time.
They
Um,
were rebels.
they were rebels, yes, because at that point, of course, most people had what we call arranged marriages in those days.
They
But
still do.
they still
Yeah.
do, yeah. And but my parents didn't. My parents actually were both in London and met in London and got married, even though they, according to the very strict orthodoxy, they were not supposed to. So right from early childhood, I kind of had that idea. Okay, I'm allowed to question things. I don't.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Everybody else does because my parents didn't do what everybody else does. Um, I went back to India. My parents sent me back to India when I was 6 months old, and I was living with my grandparents for a year or so. And then my parents joined us in India. Those first few years, I was in India until I was 4. What I remember from that early time that I think has stayed with me is the diversity. There's people from different religions, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, and so on. The music, it's a very musical and colorful place. The spirituality. So I think all of that laid a foundation. And we then came back to the UK when I was 4. I didn't speak a word of English, so I had 6 months to learn English because I was going to school in 6 months. So my mum literally sat me in front of the television, on the television, and in 6 months I had to get sufficiently fluent to get to school and be able to mix with everybody, which I did, I think.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't YouTube or TikTok, so
Oh no,
just a little
no,
more.
it was very, very primitive TV by today's standards. Uh, I think it was from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. There were children's programs, cartoons and things, so we just
Yes.
watched them. So I went to school, started school when I was about 4.5. What I remember is I think I was the only non-English person there. I think pretty much what I remember. I remember being very tall, but I had to fit into the culture. So I learned to be flexible and fit into the culture very easily, very quickly. So I suppose those early lessons were the resilience of having to move to a foreign land and fit in quickly, the adaptability in a different culture, and just learning that value of human connection with all the new friends and people I had to mix with. Um, so those were my first sort of 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And then did you have any siblings?
I did, but later on. So what happened is when I was 6, and this is where the spiritual element starts to creep in. When I was 6, my mother fell pregnant with my younger brother. And because we didn't have any other family in the UK, she decided we should go back to India to have the baby
Mm. Hmm.
around. So me and my mother went back to the UK. My father had to work. But unfortunately, what happened is when my brother was still a very young baby, he passed away. Um,
And
Later on,
how
we
were
found
your feelings about your sibling, like having a brother? Were you excited? Were you scared? How was that anticipation?
oh, it was very much, very much about excitement. Yes,
Excitement, yeah.
someone to play with, somebody to teach, somebody to boss
Yeah.
around. All
Yeah.
the things I was looking forward to. Yeah. So it turned out my mother had taken some kind of prescription medication, which they didn't realize was damaging to, potentially damaging to the
Oh,
fetus. It might have been thalidomide, I'm not quite sure. But
that's okay. We don't want to get
uh,
into the details of that, but that's horrifying. I mean, to think you're taking something that helps you.
yes, absolutely. So so he passed away when he was still a baby, and of course I realized something's not right. My mother's come home, there's no baby, everyone's in grief,
Yeah.
and it was the point that my grandfather took me to one side, and I said, "So where's my brother?" And my grandfather took me to one side and said, "Well, he's gone to be with God, and
Oh,
he'll come back,"
beautiful.
which I think was probably the best way you could deal with it for a
Yeah.
six-year-old.
Yeah.
And he started buying me these comics. We're in India, and these comics were comics that were telling the stories from all of the ancient Hindu myths, the ancient spiritual stories from thousands of years ago. And I just became absorbed in these mythologies. And I think that's what set me up for a lifetime of spiritual exploration, those early stories.
Yeah.
Um,
Something with you resonated with those stories.
yeah, absolutely. It opened up for me that there's something more than just this world we can see with our senses. It made sense of happy things, sad things, and yeah, I was just absorbed in that from a very young age. Um, so much so that I was actually kind of leaving the grandparents' home to go and find and sit in Hindu temples because I was just absorbed in the color and the ritual of all of that.
And
So
that's at this point you were 6, correct?
I'm 6 at this point,
Yeah.
yes.
Running around, but there was a lot of freedom. So you could run around and go sit in a temple, and that's beautiful.
Yes, we actually had a temple just next door to us. So it was relatively easy to just walk out in the lunch hour and go and sit there. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. So then what happened? When did you return to the UK? And how was that experience?
We were there for about 6 months in India.
Hmm.
And then we returned when I was 6.5, moving on to 7. Went straight back to the same school that I'd been in before. But things had started to change a little bit now in the UK. And we'd started to see the rise of some fairly right-wing, very extreme right-wing political parties now in the
Yeah.
UK.
Was this the 60s then?
This was the early 70s,
Early 70s. Okay.
74. And so for the first time, I started to face difficulties at school because of the differences in race. And it reached a stage where those difficulties started to become physical.
Yeah,
So,
physical bullying
exactly,
and
yes.
targeting you. Hmm.
So
Were
this
there
kind of led,
other Indian, national Indians in your school as well?
not that I can remember, I think I was pretty much the only one at that time,
Mm.
and things were
Because
quite
now
different.
it's pretty prevalent. I mean, India has such a strong influence in the UK with amazing food and restaurants. I'm personally grateful for the Indian influence when I go to England because that's the food that I prefer rather than the British. Anyway, that's just a side note. But it's just interesting. So at that time, maybe not as prevalent.
No, I think the greater percentage of Indians started in the 80s and the 90s.
That makes
In the
sense.
70s, it was a smaller percentage. But that kind of opened the door to kind of the next stage of the spiritual path, if you like, because I started to watch this TV series on television called Kung Fu, starring
Yeah,
David Carradine,
that's
if you remember.
amazing. I like that show.
I loved it, and I really wanted to learn Kung Fu or karate, not only because I loved the show and the spiritual element of the show, but it would be practical as well for me, given what was happening at school, just to defend myself. So in a way, these two things came together, and I started to learn karate. And I think that's when I really started to discover myself as an individual because I found in that karate class belonging, purpose, self-discipline, focus, single-mindedness, all these qualities that later on would help me so much.
Mm.
Um, and I would be able to use and transfer those qualities into other areas, such as my schoolwork, my other interests in other sports, and so on. And it enabled me to defend myself and get the respect of my classmates as well.
Yeah. Was there,
So
do you remember a situation where you were able to use your karate on the kids that were bullying you?
I did unfortunately have to do that on a couple of occasions, totally in self-defense.
Yeah. I
Just
know your heart is like, didn't want to, you could tell it's just like uncomfortable, but it's like that you have the skills to defend yourself and you actually needed to do that, something physical in order to get them to stop, I'm sure.
exactly. So it was, even if it was literally just a question of blocking them
Yeah.
from, I mean, that's all it was. But I just needed to do that a couple of times, and word got round, and the bullying stopped.
Hmm.
Um, so that problem was resolved. But I'd also gained this fantastic new discipline that I could use in various
Yeah.
areas. And
Yeah.
that became main practice for the next few years.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, what about mathematics? What drew you into mathematics? I understand about the Hindu spirituality with your grandfather. What about the mathematics and what inspired you to go into this field, or were you just naturally gifted in this area?
So while we were in India during those 6 months, when my brother passed away, and I was engaged in Hindu spirituality, my father, who was studying in the UK for a degree in maths, in addition to his work, started sending me these maths books to read.
Oh, other kids would be like, Dad, stop
Yeah,
it. This is boring.
yeah. I would have preferred chocolates or a packet of sweets or something, but no, I got maths books, algebra. So
That's pretty sophisticated.
it is, yeah. He was so enthusiastic about maths himself, he decided to send me stuff, set theory.
Yeah. It's
And
funny, algebra. I really liked algebra. I had a hard time with it initially, but after a while, I when I got it, I was like, oh, this is fun.
yeah, well, after the initial shock of, oh my God, why is my dad sending me this? I actually opened the books and just loved it. So I'd spend, when I wasn't running away to temples, I would spend the rest of my time during that 6 months in India just working through these maths books and doing the puzzles and doing the arithmetic and the algebra. Um, and I found did have some natural talent for it, which again I developed more once I came back to the UK. So that was my rather crazy and twisted childhood. Hindu spirituality and maths
Uh,
were my
is it?
two, and they
Yeah.
laid the foundation for my life, really.
Wow. Is it like, have you seen that movie or ads for that movie, A Beautiful Mind, where you can see all the problems coming
Mm.
together in a meaningful
Yeah,
way?
that's my one of my favorite movies, which I've seen times. Love that movie. And I did actually find some resonance with that movie
Yeah.
because and even today when I'm writing and doing my work, or when I created the diamond model and other models, I do find that the patterns just kind of appear in consciousness as if
That's
they're,
so cool.
it's like a download, like you mentioned earlier.
Down, yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels spiritual. It feels spiritual for you, mathematics.
Well, absolutely. And this is why the maths and the Hindu spirituality were actually quite complementary. They weren't very different. Both of them were about finding deeper patterns and deeper order in the world. The Hindu mythology would do it with stories and poetry and metaphor and color. The maths would do it with numbers and proofs and theorems. But they were both, what I found is maths and spirituality lead to the same place in the end, which is what is this deeper order all about?
Yes.
Um,
And could you share a little bit about one of your books, Gifted,
mm,
and why you decided to write that book, the inspiration behind it?
yeah, sure. So the book Gifted it's a novel, it's a short novel, and it's actually about a young boy aged around 14, 15, who's struggling to sort of fit into school and doesn't really know what's going on. And it turns out that he's very gifted in academically. So his parents send him to this sort of special academy for gifted children, where he not only excels with his gifts because he's with children similar to him, but he learns to mix and socialize and he individuates and actually grows up and gets maturity in that new environment, which suits him. And he discovers romance as well for the first time. So, what inspired me to write that is one of the things I found in the spiritual path is that you have to be somebody before you can be nobody. You have to have some kind of mature sense of self before you can really go beyond the self healthily. So, this first book was really about this young boy finding his sense of self in the world and getting that mature ego that I think you need.
Yeah, I really like that story, and maybe it will be a movie or a TV series someday, and really serve the teenagers and children.
Yes,
You know, I feel that is needed in this day and time for kids to embrace their gifts. And
absolutely. And be comfortable in their own skin
yes.
and themselves as unique individuals.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's the foundation, I think.
That's beautiful. Well, can you share about your spiritual journey, such as your time as a Jehovah Witness?
Sure. So this was another strange twist. So when I was about 8 or 9, my best friend in school, his name was Barry, and him and his family were Jehovah's Witnesses. And so they started lending me books.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's how I got into that faith. And it made complete sense to me at that age. It gave
Yeah.
a kind of a and a belief system to all the intuitions I was getting with these other earlier material.
I see. What did your parents think about that?
Well, they were strongly opposed to it
Yeah.
uh, as Hindus, and also just because they saw it as a sect, not as a very mainstream religion. But I
Hmm.
went underground, so for about 10 years I followed it without my parents' knowledge. So I was
Yeah.
smuggling Bibles through the bathroom window and reading it when they think I'm doing my homework. So I kind of did this for about 10 years um, without their knowledge. But then when I was about 17 or 18, I said to them that I want to follow this seriously. But they gave me a choice. They said, well, if you want to follow that seriously, then you'll have to do that on your own. We won't support you anymore. We won't support you to go to university and so on.
Yeah.
Give it up.
They
And then,
didn't say they didn't say we'd disown you or not communicate, right? They just
no,
meant financially.
yeah, financially, I'd have to
Okay.
make it. Yes, yes.
Right. Which kind of
Uh,
feels like a like an end to the relationship a little bit,
to
but
some degree, yes,
to some
yes.
degree, yeah.
But I had again, one of those strange events that happen as a synchronicity. So it's weeks before I have to go to university and I have to make this decision. And I walk into a library in Gravesend near my school, and I come across this book quite by random called Why I Left the Jehovah's Witnesses by this guy called Ted Dencher, who was a Jehovah's Witness for 30 years.
Well,
And he
that's
used
divine.
That's a divine timing, yeah. I mean, what are the chances? So I sat in the library all day, 7 or 8 hours, and read the whole book from cover to cover. And it was all the reasons why he left, personal, biblical, and so on. And by the time I got on the bus to go home that night, my beliefs of 10 years had already started to crumble away. I think I was obviously ready for that. That book was the push that I needed to do that. So my parents were overjoyed, and I went to university. But now I went with a very different attitude. Now it was like, okay, I'm free from these religious beliefs.
Yeah.
I still have this passion for maths, for spirituality, but now I can go and explore life with much more openness and freedom than I would have had. And that's the attitude I went into university with.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's wonderful. Um, yeah, I have been in not Jehovah Witness, but I've been in a Christian, um, I mean, I guess some could say it was a cult.
Mhm.
Some would call it that from the outside because I'm now, I don't mean to compare that to Jehovah Witness. I'm not insinuating that. It's just that I was drawn into it in college for my beliefs and community. And there was a point when I guess it was time they decided for me to move in with these other women that were my age and college students and move out of my place. And it felt controlling at that point where it hadn't before. And something switched on in me. And then my ex said something like, and then it kind of like made me think about things and I left that situation. I didn't feel in danger or anything. It's just I don't like the feeling of being controlled and told what to do. So,
Mhm.
um, for me, that was when I left that.
Yeah.
Um, but regardless,
Similar for me. It was by the time I was 18, it was getting very restrictive.
mhm.
I
And
wanted
I
that.
feel like God doesn't want that for our lives.
Right, exactly.
We have free will, I mean, and freedom.
Mm,
I mean, God is love, freedom, and peace. So anything that's not that, I feel like, okay, that might be man-made or human created.
mm. Uh,
So what what about your near-death experience? Would you share about that?
Yeah, sure. So when I was in my 30s, I started to get some health issues. And these developed eventually into quite a serious condition called ulcerative colitis.
Hmm.
I ended up in hospital, quite seriously ill in hospital.
I bet your
And
parents, your family must have been so like devastated.
it was extremely difficult because I'd been extremely physically healthy up to that point. I-
Hmm.
an amateur athlete into my 20s, for example.
Yeah, an athlete in what?
400 meters track.
Oh, you track, great. Hmm.
And so this was quite a blow. I ended up in hospital and I was just losing blood. So there was a point when it wasn't even certain if I would survive or not. And I was married by this point. Um, and it actually got to a stage where my wife was next to me and she made this quite extraordinary offer. She said to me that, look, if it's too difficult for you to hold on, then, you can let go and you don't have to worry about me. I'll be okay.
Oh my God, your wife is amazing.
Extraordinary. And I wouldn't be here today if
That
it
makes
wasn't.
me cry.
Um,
So how did
and
that feel?
well, I was overwhelmed by the love in that offer. But I also was very clear in my mind that I had work to do in this world, that I wasn't going to be allowed to die until that work is done. This is like 16 years ago now.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember turning to her, kind of rolling over on the bed, and I said to her that, look, this is just a blip. And we're going to come back from this, and I'm going to write books, and I'm going to give talks, and we're going to travel, and we're going to be amazed one day that we came back from this and we're doing what we will end up doing. Um, so I'm not going anywhere. And within minutes of me putting that strong intention out,
Yeah, you felt your power at that moment.
exactly, it was exactly that. And within like 10 minutes of making that intent, that declaration, the doctors came in and said, we're going to have to do surgery that will save you. Um, and they wheeled me into surgery. I had the surgery, which was initially very successful. I came out of surgery, but then 3 days later, I started to feel these severe chest pains, middle of the night. And doctors were called out to an emergency, and I was wheeled into this room. And they told me that I had some kind of aneurysm, again, something potentially quite life-threatening. And then I'm not quite sure what happened, but I think they just kind of forgot about me and left me in that room, switched off the lights and left. So I'm left in this room with an aneurysm. I'm not sure what's going on. And that's the first time I really came face to face with that sense of mortality.
Yeah.
Um, and I felt there was nothing for me to do at this point but to surrender to the higher power,
Okay.
gone beyond what I could do as a human. So I just made some kind of gesture that, whoever you are, whatever you are, I just surrender my future completely to you. And I felt my consciousness starting to fade. And I saw what I can only describe as a stream of light coming from out of me like this and splitting into two halves.
You
One
saw
half,
that?
I saw that, yes,
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
two halves. One half faded away into darkness. The other half got brighter and brighter. And the way I read that was that there's two options. There's two ways this could go. This is the end, and I'm going to fade away, or I'll come back from this and there's a bright future ahead. And I just surrendered that to God or the higher power. And I lost consciousness. I woke up a couple of days later back in the ward, and I started to get better. And it was during that period of starting to get better that my first book, Gifted, started to download. And I wrote that. And that was the beginning of what became a career as a writer and speaker.
Mm.
But it stemmed from that letting go of the reins and allowing God to do what he or she wanted to do. Mm.
And did you get so you got gifted, and did you understand your life purpose even more and start following it? So that's maybe being an author and speaker.
Yes. So I'd known for a long time that I was meant to be writing.
Mm.
Um, and after Gifted downloaded, quite soon afterwards, my second novel, Dancing with Angels, which is a more explicitly spiritual novel, that started to download as well. I didn't have much of an idea really about being a speaker at that point. But as these books started to circulate, I started getting contacted by people asking for, can I give an interview? Can I give a talk? Can I talk at this conference? And that's how that started to develop. And I found growingly that I did have something important to say, and something was coming through me and being transmitted through me. And that's when it became clear that this is what it was all for. All those
Mhm.
difficulties and trials and experiences, it was all leading up to this work that I have to do. Yeah.
Mm. So, what do you hope people will take away from your personal story, your journey, and your teachings?
So I would say, first of all, just the power of resilience.
Mm.
That, yes, there is grief in life. There are problems in life. There are illnesses in life. But instead of seeing things as problems, we see each so-called difficulty as an opportunity for growth and transformation that can make us stronger, move us into deeper territory. Secondly, I hope people can see that we need to integrate different aspects of what it is to be human. The magic from childhood, the myth from ancient times, the reason from modern times. They're all parts of us: intellect, intuition, spirit. If the world is going to survive and thrive, I think we need to become these multidimensional, integrated humans. That's the core of what I'm trying to say. And the universality of this quest for truth. Doesn't matter where you come from or what religion you follow or what your path is. We're all really going up the same mountain by different paths. So follow your path, find your path, but respect that everybody else is on their path. We're all moving towards that same ultimate goal. The willingness to question, to courageously explore things, to go beyond dogma, to think rationally, and then to go beyond reason, to be open to the more mystical aspects of life. The power of love, the power of connection, and that sacredness of every aspect of life, including adversity.
Mm.
Um, but the most important core of what I'm trying to get across is that infinite potential that each of us has as human beings. We're all in the depths of our being, we intersect with the divine. And as we evolve, we bring that more and more to the fore. And that's, in my view, that's the purpose of human existence, to more and more show up as that divine being that we already are in our essence. So if I can get a fraction of that across, I'll be happy that I've done my work.
Mm. Yes, wonderful. What is Zen success to you?
So I would say Zen, the word Zen for me represents, apart from the tradition of Zen, it represents self-understanding, mindfulness, self-inquiry, focus, self-mastery. And the word success to me signifies whatever a person feels his purpose is in life. It doesn't have to be conventional success. It could be anything, whatever a person's true calling is in life, what their soul and their heart are crying for. So Zen success for me would mean being able to apply those spiritual principles of mindfulness, heartfulness, soulfulness to fulfilling that calling in life that your soul has been crying for since you were born, even though it may take you decades to really hear that. So
Oh,
that would be my understanding of Zen success.
thank you for that. I love that. I just wanted to touch on one of your creations, the diamond model.
Mm.
So, can you describe how you came up with this and what this model is for our audience?
Yeah, so starting at university, I kind of became a little bit obsessed with wanting to find out what all these different religions and traditions have in common. So I studied that obsessively for several years. And when I was around 23, 24, I was meditating early one Sunday morning. I was still living with my parents at that point. And this green diamond just appeared in my consciousness while I was meditating.
So, not an emerald, but a green diamond. Amazing.
Yes, I think so. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Yes. It was clearly diamond shaped and shining green. And it felt to me that this was something important. So I stopped meditating and I went to my desk and started to draw what I was seeing. And what emerged was what has come to be known as the diamond model. And the diamond model has a number of basic principles, which I can quickly go through. According to the diamond model, underneath this world of multiplicity, this world of separate things, there is an underlying wholeness, an underlying unity behind everything. So wholeness and multiplicity became, if you can visualize a diamond, the top part of the diamond and the bottom part of the diamond, one and many. Um, the second insight I got was that fragmentation, brokenness, division in the world comes because we lose sight of that wholeness. And so healthy multiplicity, healthy parts become fragments, fragmentation. The third insight I got was that the first multiplicity, the first thing that emerges out of wholeness is this distinction that we make between subject and object, between ourselves and the rest of the world. So in this diamond, if you can visualize the diamond, we have wholeness at the top, multiplicity at the bottom, I have self on the left and the world on the right. So those are the four corners of the diamond. So we make that, in each moment, we're making that distinction between subject and object. And then that distinction proliferates to create all these other distinctions that we make. But ultimately, the diamond is a one. And that's my understanding of the term non-duality. It's just this one non-dual diamond. And what I found is that this structure, I found it showing up as the core in every religion and every tradition I could find. So it felt that I'd come across something really important. I had the privilege of discussing it with the physicist David Bohm, who was I'm sure you've come across David Bohm, a very famous physicist,
Yeah,
who had
I
worked
know
with
his
Einstein.
name, but I don't study his work or anything.
So he'd worked with Einstein
Yeah.
and he'd developed his own theory of wholeness. So I discussed that with him. And then that discussion with David Bohm and some more writing on the diamond model became another book that I published about 25 years later. Um, and that was the main book that came to the attention of various people. So a lot of what I now teach and speak about, and even some of the courses that I'm designing with my colleague Marie, are centered around this diamond model to get people to understand it and then to get people to practice that so that they become, speaking poetically, they become like human diamonds so they can shine as diamonds in the world.
Yeah.
That's kind of become the core of my work. This
Wonderful.
crazy vision I had more than 30 years ago.
Mm, wonderful. Have you heard of the feng shui master, Marie Diamond?
No, I haven't. No,
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Because of her last name, right?
Last name, yeah.
You would really resonate with her. I think there's a lot of parallels. Of course, she's talking about something else. I mean, she's talking about feng shui and healing.
Mm.
But since her last name is Diamond, she puts that on a lot of her materials, the diamond method and everything. So what's next for you? Is it creating courses with this new company or?
That's a major part of it, yes. So Marie and I, we've created a new company called Evolving Nexus, and we're going to be creating courses in self-development, becoming somebody and then becoming nobody, and also courses in studying the great traditions and applying those in the modern world. I'm also working on a book at the moment, which outlines the evolution of spirituality through human history. And as well as that, I hope to just carry on speaking, and hopefully there will be at least some people that will find some resonance with what I'm speaking. The ultimate goal is if I can, the dream is, can this be put into some kind of really powerful medium, like you mentioned earlier, like a movie or a play or something like that, but to get across these notions of wholeness and multiplicity and subject and object fragmentation in a way that can really powerfully affect human consciousness. Because that's what I feel the purpose of my life is now.
Mm, amazing. Well, it's been such a pleasure connecting with you and hearing part of your story. I know there's so much more. And I'll put your website. You can send me the best website if you'd like for you, and how to order your books in the show notes. So thanks for being on my show today, Nish.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Krista. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey, and join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.